Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though. Got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my OG, got me locked in on cup though.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromand goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromand and Ronnar, but Boromand's got the inside.
Literally a guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see there, Putin still leads. 1.5 seconds. DRS.
Alright, hello everyone, welcome back. It's that time of the week. It's time for some more PSGL. Today we arrive at Belgium for the 9th round or the 8th round I should say, in this 34th season here in PSGL on the PC side of things. I am your race commentator, More Games, and starting to get a little bit more accustomed to this tier it seems, and I'm definitely glad to be back commentating on this F3 tier. And as you can see, heading into the 8th round of the season, Cameron Dowd continues to lead the way out in front ahead of Liam Stevens by 8 points. He's had some pretty good results recently with having 2 podiums in the last 2 races, and a very good podium last time out in the tricky changeable conditions. He was able to eke a podium out I believe on the intermediate compound of tyres. So he's been doing well so far, and he just needs to continue this now for the last 5 rounds of the season. He still has some competition though. He has likes of Liam Stevens not too far behind. Drake Dempsey is also quite close to him, and Dempsey obviously a very consistent driver. Apart from his 2 DNFs, he's finished in the top 6 in every race that he's finished in, so very good results for him in this season. And then apart from that, there aren't actually too many other championship contenders, because then there's a big gap between P3 and P5, and obviously Skizzer was promoted to PCF2. So those are the standings heading into this round, and we can now take a look at the qualifying session. And you can see some drivers heading out on circuit now and beginning the first lap times of the session. And the first man out on circuit is going to be the Ferrari of Andres Lopez as he heads out of La Source in the first turn of the circuit. We can now ride on board with him for a full lap of this Belgian circuit. Up the hill now, and down the Kemmel Straight with the DRS wide open and really high top speeds down this straight. You can see almost getting up to 340 kilometers per hour before turning it in for the Laycombe chicane. Very easy to lose any sort of rear stability through here, but you can see Lopez quite smooth with it through the middle sector of the lap time. Now getting ready for No Name, as trying to cut in, get a tyre onto the curb, and then using plenty of the width of the circuit on the exit. Now this very fast left-hander tried to make the lift through there as small as you possibly can. Now we have some very flowing rights and lefts as he takes them quite nicely. He's just got to nail this right-hander before he enters the final sector of the lap time, not using too much curb on the entry but using all of it on the exit. And now Andres Lopez just has to finish it off with the bus stop chicane, the final braking zone of the circuit, and then he will be setting the benchmark for the session. And this is not the easiest of chicanes. The curbs raise quite high, so you have to be quite delicate with it, and the rear lockups also very common, which we saw there with Lopez into the braking zone. But across the line now, he sets a 1 minute 40.6 as the banker time in the session, and that is now the time that everyone else has to beat, and it is beaten because Fionn McKee is able to go to P1. That's get taken away by Drake Dempsey, who now pops himself into first place with a 1 minute 40.3. Cameron Dowd sets a 1:40.5 to put himself into the top 2. I believe Tripkov has actually invalidated his lap time, so he's going to have to probably come back to the pit lane and get a new set of soft compound tyres without having set a lap time in the session so far. We'll try to find someone else here who's on a lap. I believe Moraviak coming across the line now. Let's see what he can do across the line. He goes to P10 with a 1:40.7, and obviously these are just the banker times in the session, so we'll be be seeing these times begin to tumble as the session continues on. But Wilson Hall now out of the final turn across the line, set to 140.4, and that puts him onto the provisional second row of the field. So a great time here from the PSR man, who recently merged with Talent Factory, I do believe, and now they're probably one of, if not the biggest console team, and they obviously have some drivers on the PC platform as well, not only in this tier but in the F2 tier as well. So PSR now looking like a very, very strong team. But most drivers now have set a lap time and put it onto the board. Only three drivers, I should say, who either invalidated or made mistakes on their first laps of the session. That would be Tripkov, Laminin and Fabos, all without lap times as of right now in the session. But they have plenty of time to get some laps onto the board, which is exactly what they'll be aiming to do. I believe we still have about 14 minutes left in the session, so maybe a little bit less, but I think everyone will be aiming to get maybe 2 more lap times in this session, and that would probably be good enough for them. Obviously, most qualifying sessions you aim to set 3 laps, and that will usually do you, and hopefully by setting 3 laps you can get a good time onto the board and put yourself in a decent position. So everyone just into the pit lane now, preparing themselves for their second laps and getting their tires ready before they do so. And plenty of them coming into the pit lane. And obviously, we might see bigger gaps between the lap times, and that's just because of how long this circuit is. One of the longest lap times on the calendar. So the in-laps and the out-laps take a lot longer than other circuits, which means there's really no room for error, because if you go a bit too slow, you might be missing out on a third and final lap time. So these guys need to be careful in how they approach this qualifying session. But Lopez, he was the first man out at the start of the session. He's going to be the first man out again in the midpoint in the session. He's coming down the camera straight now on his outlap, and he's actually come out a lot earlier than everyone else. So clearly Lopez doesn't want to deal with any traffic whatsoever. He doesn't care about the track evolution. What he cares about is making sure that he has a clear circuit ahead of him so that he can set a nice and fast lap time without anyone interrupting him. So that's exactly what he'll aim to do. But before we get to the second lap times, we can obviously take a look at how the qualifying order is currently looking, as Lopez taking the esports line out of no name. But Drake Dempsey currently on the provisional pole position by a 1/10 of a second ahead of Barrett, so he's doing really well so far in the session. But obviously everyone has only set 1 lap time so far. Then we have Declan Barrett, who I haven't seen around before in this PCF3 division, but obviously I'm not a main commentator in this division, so it'll be the first time I'll see him racing. And the same goes for Zamaro, who's in P3 currently. Then we have Hall in P5, ET8 Moldovan up there, or P4 I should say for Hull. Moldovan is in P5. Louis Welch is up there. Paul Eckelmeyer for ET8. And then obviously we have the championship contenders of Dowds in 8, and also Liam Stevens down in P14 with the second slowest lap time set. So those two guys will be looking to really improve upon their times and go a lot quicker in the session, as Drake Dempsey, Cameron Dowds and Liam Stevens, remember those 3 names because they are the main championship contenders, and so far it's looking very, very good for Drake Dempsey out of the 3 of them and out of everyone in the session. But Lopez is now coming through La Source, and a beautiful line through there. You can see there's a bit of a dip on the apex at the first turn. You just want to get your inside tire into there and then use as much of the curb on the exit without touching the sausage curb, and that's exactly what Lopez has done. So hopefully that will see him improve a little bit, at least, out of the first sector of the lap time. And his first sector split now coming up as he enters the Lacombe chicane, and you can see he's only improved by 7/1000ths of a second, as a little bit squarely on the rear end, but he's kept it in control for now. He's just got to sort it out in the final 2 sectors of the lap time. Obviously the first sector being the shortest, so there's more time to find through here. And you can see going out of no name now, not using that little bit of AstroTurf on the outside of the circuit down Radion, or Puan I should say. And he's now getting ready for the right and then the left, trying to get up on that curb. You really want to be touching the grey Astro on the inside. He's missed that slightly, and that will cost him a little bit of time. But once again, very nice line through that last right-hander. But he's only improving by 15 one-thousandths of a second. This time seems to be very, very similar to the one that he set at the start of the session. But is all the time to be found at the bus stop chicane. We obviously saw him locking up into here on his last lap. Can he get it a little bit better this time? And he has. That's very, very nice from Lopez. So this should be a tenth or two of improvement across the line now. He goes up to P8 with a tenth and a half of improvement. So definitely a good improvement for the midpoint of the session for Andres Lopez. Let's see if we can find someone else on a lap. Drake Dempsey is coming into the third sector of the lap time. Currently aiming to beat that 140.3, but out of the middle sector, he's actually down by 32 one-thousandths of a second. So definitely not improving so far, but he still has got this bus stop chicane to go. And as we saw with Lopez, he was able to find a tenth and a half through here. So can Drake Dempsey possibly find something similar? But the answer is no. He's decided not to continue on with this lap time. He brings it back into the pit lane in preparation for his final lap time of the session. Cameron Dowds is now getting ready for P1, and he is improving, unlike Dempsey. So hopefully he can boost himself and get himself a little bit closer to the provisional pole man. Jane Tripkov has just gone up to the provisional front row with a 1 minute 40.4, and that puts him with three others who have set a 1 minute 40.4. So those guys really close. But here's ETA Echomeyer, who's just gone to P1 with a 40.2. A fantastic time from the Williams driver. He goes a tenth ahead of Dempsey to put himself into provisional pole position. So far, Williams looking very strong in the session. Moraviak has just been promoted into fifth position. We then have Fionn McKee, this man's teammate, going onto the front row, but that gets stolen away by Declan Barrett, who's now on the front row. Can Cameron Dowds keep up with all the improvement that everyone else is finding? Across the line to 140.4, and he gets himself up into the top 5 and a lot closer to his championship rival Drake Dempsey. So good time there from Dowds, and that's now Haas with two drivers in the top 5, and Haas, as always, looking very strong and very competitive. Both drivers usually up there and battling at the front of the field. So good to see that they continue to do well in this session. But Paul Echomeyer, fantastic lap time from him. He's getting dangerously close to those 1 minute 39 second lap times, and so far he's looking good for that pole position. But we saw at the start of the session, Drake Dempsey was on this provisional pole, and he was on the provisional pole by a bigger margin than Echomeyer currently is. So anything can change at the end of the session, and it usually does in Formula 1. So Echomeyer is not going to be safe forever. He needs to go out for a final lap time and hopefully set an even faster one to solidify his current P1 position. Declan Barrett, though, is extremely close behind him. Only that would be 26 one-thousandths of a second separating the two of them. So about a quarter of a tenth of a second. That's how small that margin truly is, which is what we want to see. We love to see a nice and close battle for pole position. And it's amazing to see how close the gaps are, especially at a circuit as long as this. The gaps are usually bigger the longer the circuit is, but these drivers are as close as ever, as they usually are in Formula 3. And we also have the likes of McKee getting himself into the top 5, and even Drake Dempsey wasn't able to improve on his banker time, that time that he set at the very beginning of the session when the track evolution was at its very worst. It's still good enough for P4, so if he has improvement to find on that time, he could be a force to be reckoned with come the end of the session. So plenty of names in the hat for pole position at this stage, but one name we must look at, Liam Stevens down in P16. Do believe he invalidated his second time of the session, which means that 140.7 is still his qualifying time in qualifying here in Belgium. So he's going to have one more opportunity to improve upon that, and he needs to make sure that he improves upon that, because he does not want to be starting at the back of the grid, no matter how easy it is to overtake at this circuit, which it is quite easy actually, because the that very long DRS zone down the Kemmel Straight. We're going to see plenty of overtakes into the Lacombe chicane, and also a nice DRS zone for the run down into turn number 1. And the drivers do tend to make themselves some opportunities in the middle sector as well. So there are plenty of places to make a move. The only problem is, since this is a long circuit, there aren't as many lap times for each of them. So obviously back in Imola, there would have been, I think it was 32 laps. So you get 32 opportunities to use the pit straight and the DRS straight on the start-finish line. But now here in Belgium, you only get 22 laps. So only 22 opportunities to use that Kemmel Straight to make overtakes. So it's absolutely crucial that you make the overtakes and you time them well. But the drivers now coming out for their final lap times in the session. And the first man out on circuit is one of the Alfa Romeos. It is going to be Moldovan. He's currently up in P11. Drake Dempsey has gotten a 5-place grid penalty. And since no one is actually on flying lap, that will be removed. But that also means we will have to restart the lobby. Which is obviously a shame, but yeah, that's usually how it goes on this F1 23 game. Still riddled with bugs as always, but it looks like the Alfa Romeo has just been... Oh my god, look at this! Drake Dempsey has been disqualified from the session for illegal blocking. I'm absolutely speechless at that. He was given so many 5-place grid penalties, and obviously he didn't speed up because he knew that he could get them removed, but the game decided enough was enough. The game obviously didn't want him blocking someone who was on an outlap, which makes sense, but he's now disqualified from the session. I'm really not sure there's anything he can do about that. So what the tier coordinator will probably have to do is just use the time that he set at the start of the session, which I believe was a 1 minute 40.349 or something around that. So he's probably just going to have to use that lap time. So Drake Dempsey is not going to get an opportunity to improve. That is such a shame for the Mercedes driver. But yeah, that's a very, very annoying bug, and it strikes in almost every single F1 23 lobby, so that really needs to be fixed by the developers. I can say that now, but it probably won't be, at least not for a very long time. But yeah, Drake Dempsey at 140.3 is going to be his final time in the session. Such a shame, especially when you're in a position to contend for the championship and you just get hit with something like that. What a shame for Dempsey, but he's just got to continue on, and hopefully he can do better in the race. But the drivers are now sending their final laps of the session, and the first man to do so will be the Aston Martin ABS driver of Tony Richet as he comes and gets ready for the bus stop chicane to end off his final lap time of the session. He's currently down in P16 with the slowest time so far. Can he improve and get himself up into the midfield positions across the line? It looks like he will. It's a 40.5, which puts him into P12. Definitely a lot better than P17. But it's all eyes on this man, Cameron Dowds, and also his rival, Liam Stevens, who I believe is just up the road from him. He is indeed, so these guys will be setting lap times one after another. So Cameron Dowds currently on 140.4, 3 tenths quicker than what Liam Stevens was able to set, but 3 tenths is not a massive margin, so Liam Stevens could easily find his way up into those top positions. Paul Eckelmeyer is not able to improve upon his time, so 140.2 will be his final time. James Tripkov, a 140.4 for him. A lot of people not really improving in the session. Declan Barrett, he gets so close. He did improve, but he's 4 1/1000ths away from Paul Eckelmeyer. Came so close to that pole position. Fionn McKee, or Wilson Hall, I should say, goes to P4. What can Liam Stevens set across the line? He only goes P15. What about Cameron Dowds? And it hasn't actually showed us the time, but where has he gone? He stayed in P5. So no one really improving. It looks like Paul Eckelmeyer for ET8 will be starting on pole position by the slimmest of margins. It's 4/1000ths of a second. Barrett put up a valiant effort at the end of the session, but he misses out on the finest of margins. Great job from the two of them, who will be starting on the front row of the field. Phil McKee in P3 with Wilson Hall, and managed to get up to the top 4. Cameron Dowds in P5 alongside Tripkov. On the 4th row, we have Welch and Moraviak. Zamaro and Fabos on the 5th, with Lenoir and Moldovan on the 6th. Lopez and the Minin on the 7th. Stevens and Richer on the 8th. Franco and Dempsey on the final row. And obviously Dempsey, if we can actually take a look here, 140.349 would actually put him in P4, which is where he was before the final few laps were set. So it wasn't a massive blow, but obviously if he had found improvement, he could find himself on pole position. So a shame, but he's still in a good starting position for the Grand Prix itself, and that's on the 2nd row of the field. So yeah, Drake Dempsey, definitely unfortunate for him, but Paul Eckelmeyer, very, very good job from him. And yeah, we are definitely leaving the lobby, which is obviously fair enough, because I do also believe Moraviak got himself a 5-place grid penalty as well. But our 3 championship contenders, we have Cameron Dowds in P5, Drake Dempsey is in P4, but the big story, Liam Stevens down in P15. And obviously I haven't commentated every race in this division, but from what I have seen from Stevens, I know he's not the best of qualifiers. He does it all in the Grand Prix itself. So even if he starts a little bit further down the field, don't let that fool you, because there's every chance that with his consistency and racecraft and his race pace as well, he could find himself easily up into the top 5 positions and possibly onto a podium. So definitely keep an eye on Liam Stevens in the Grand Prix. But before we go to the Grand Prix itself, we're obviously going to have to take a little bit of a short break so that the tier coordinator can set up the lobby once again. And so until then, we should only be taking about a 5-minute break if everything goes smoothly. So until then, we'll just be taking a break for now.
Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rosé in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though. Cocaine in my nose, got rosé in my cup, though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup, though.
Alright everyone, that was our title sponsor GT Omega. You can check them out in the link in the description, and if you use code PSGL at checkout, you can actually get 5% off of any offer, or off of anything that you want to buy. So definitely check them out. They make some really high quality cockpits and anything like that if you're into sim racing. But we are now back into the lobby and we are getting ready for the Grand Prix itself. Everything has been sorted out, and we are looking all good for the Grand Prix itself. So the drivers now just have to get their setup strategies and their fuels ready before we can get this race underway. And strategy-wise, I do believe I have seen the soft compound tires being used at this circuit. Whether or not the drivers will decide to go with that, we'll have to wait and see. But you can probably expect quite a few people starting on the hard compounded tires and then going to the mediums. I know obviously that was the only viable strategy on the previous game, and it is still very good on this one. But don't be surprised, especially for the drivers towards the back of the field, if you see them starting on the soft compounded tires and then going to the hards or maybe even the mediums if they really want to stretch it. So we'll see what kind of strategies these drivers are going to decide upon, but no matter what they decide upon, this is definitely going to be a good Grand Prix. Like I said in qualifying, great track for overtaking, and we're about to see it on display. 5 red lights. They are gone and we are away. What kind of start is it for a pole man of Paul Eckelmeyer on the run down into turn 1. He's covered off Declan Barrett very nicely coming into there, and you can see Fionn McKee already on the attack. He's trying to get past Declan Barrett, and actually a lot of people on the soft compound tires, including Fionn McKee. He's gotten up into P2 now, and he's got his eyes set on Paul Eckelmeyer. He's already trying to look for a move out of Eau Rouge and up Radion, now down the Kemmel Straight. There's a terrible camera angle, but you can see Paul Eckelmeyer defending the inside line already. Though we have a virtual safety car being released, which means everything is brought to a halt, and that's unfortunate for Fionn McKee because it was looking like he could have made that move into the chicane there. But a virtual safety car, what's that for? It's because Leminen has retired from the session, so Leminen is now out of the session. That's such a shame to see from him, a lap 1 retirement. Those are always the worst, but you can see the position changes. Zamaro up into P8, he's the biggest gainer, and then Tripkov losing P3 positions. He has lost the most out of anyone. But we can take a look at the tires, and it's a bit of a rainbow of tires. Every single compound being used. You have hard runners, you have soft runners, you have mediums. So I definitely knew Belgium was a bit more interesting for the strategy choices. But Paul Eckelmeyer and Declan Barrett, along with Zamaro and Moldovan, those are the only 4 drivers on the hards, and then throughout the rest of the field it's split between the softs and the mediums, with a lot of people starting in the top 7 have actually gone for the soft compound tires. So the softs seem like the favourite tire. And what's this? Fionn McKee trying to get ready for an early restart, jumping the gun a little bit there as he tried to overtake Paul Eckelmeyer before the safety car was actually over, but he's now using all of his ERS coming into the bus stop chicane, looking to the outside line. Paul Eckelmeyer trying to defend the middle of the track. Phil McKee on his inside for the final apex, so who gets the better exit out of here? Can the soft compound tyres do it? Yes, they can. Fantastic exit for the Irishman. He promotes himself up into P1 and the lead of the race. But what's this? Declan Barrett breaks way too late coming into turn number 1. He's just spun round Wilson Hall. That is a massive shame. Wilson Hall falls all the way down to last place in P17, and Red Bull not having a good day, but Declan Barrett just not very good awareness there. Big mistake from him, and that will give him a post-race penalty. So wherever he finishes, he's probably going to be ending up a little bit lower down after the race is over. But Barrett is now down to P5 because he's actually lost the position to Louis Welch, who goes up to P4 on the soft compound tires. So now 3 drivers in the top 4 are on the soft compound tires. So everyone really liking those as Fabos sliding all over the place as he heads down the hill through the 8th turn of the circuit. And a lot of people switching positions up and down the field. But at the front, Phil McKee is beginning to break away from Paul Eckelmeyer. The gap currently 1.1 seconds. So he's using the soft compound tyres for everything that he's got, and trying to extend that gap to Eckelmeyer behind him. And if he can do that, Eckelmeyer is going to have a really hard time catching up to him and using the DRS, which you won't have access to. So this is a great strategy from Phil McKee. He's playing it very nice so far. And actually, one of the PSR guys, Crispy, in the chat saying that Declan actually got hit from behind. And if he did get hit from behind, that means he probably won't get a post-race penalty. And whoever actually hit him will. And I do believe the man behind him was Louis Welch as they continue to battle it out of the final turn. Zamaro's actually gotten a 5-second time penalty for corner cutting. I'm not too sure how he's done that. Not sure where he would have done that either, but he has now got himself 8 seconds of time penalties, and it's only lap 3. So that's not good at all for the Aston Martin driver. We actually see a driver come into the pit lane. That's Liam Stevens, and that's a front wing change for the Ferrari man, and that is not ideal whatsoever. So he is now down into P17. He's on mediums that won't make it to the end of the race. So he has to come in for another stop. And he's about 20 odd seconds away from the rest of the field. So Liam Stevens' day is going from bad to worse. And he's miles away from his championship competitors of Dempsey and Dowds. And Dowds is now actually up into P2 because he was able to get past Paul Eckelmeyer pretty easily with the use of the soft compound tyres and obviously the DRS down the Kendall Straight. So Dowds, great job from him. It's now a Haas 1-2 with Phil McKee and Cameron Dowds leading the way in this Grand Prix. Cameron Dowds using quite a bit of battery because he's trying to catch up to the race leader and get into that DRS. And if he can do that, maybe the two of them can work together to pull away from everyone else. But currently Phil McKee has his red light flashing, and the same goes for Cameron Dowds. So they both use absolutely all of their ERS at this early stage of the race. So if anyone catches up to them, they'll be completely open to an attack. So they have to hope now that the softs can begin to pull them away from everyone else. But Paul Eckelmeyer is still hanging in that DRS of Cameron Dowds, and he's becoming a bit of a thorn in the side for the Haas driver, as he has still got plenty of battery left. So he's using it all down the straights to keep up with the top two. But now he's going to be suffering pressure from Louis Welch behind. As they get ready for Eau Rouge, we have a very long DRS straight coming up, and the softs versus the hards. Well, we've already seen this before, so Louis Welch, with the DRS now open, is going to make a nice and easy pass on the ET8 man. Well, could he lose possibly 2 positions because Barrett is looking to the outside line, but he has not broken late enough. Paul Eckelmeyer holding that P4 position for now, trying to hang on as much as he can with these hard compound tires, which is obviously easier said than done. Drake Dempsey is also trying to get involved with his mediums, trying to catch up to the likes of Cameron Dowds, but the two Haas drivers, they've done it. They've pulled off their strategy so nicely, and they are now 1.3 seconds ahead of everyone else. So looking fantastic so far in this Grand Prix. They've just got to keep up a strong pace until they come in for their new set of tyres. So Fionn McKee and Dowds, the teamwork is the dream work in their situation. But the rest of the field very close together, all the way from P3 down to P13 in the form of Zamaro. They're all within DRS of each other, so we could see anyone try to go for an overtake at this stage. Drake Dempsey currently in the slipstream of Declan Barrett, and there's a bit of a tyre difference there between the mediums and the hards, so Drake Dempsey definitely has the pace advantage at this early stage of the Grand Prix. Question is he going to look to make an overtake because of that? And as they head through the bus stop chicane, these three guys are really, really close in the battle for P4. But Drake Dempsey just holding on to his battery at this stage. He knows he doesn't need to push too hard. There's no point in getting aggressive and making overtakes early on. You may as well save that for the end of the race when the positions are well and truly decided. But we might now see a move for the lead. Cameron Dowds using all the battery that he has left, because he's now trying to overtake his teammate Fionn McKee. He's now gotten himself up into the lead of the Grand Prix. Is that the only overtake we're going to see though, because Declan Barrett is looking to the outside line, but he's gotten boxed in by the AlphaTauri of Louis Welch, and that means Paul Eckelmeyer has tried to go for a move there through the Lacombe chicane, trying to find any angle past the TF10 man, but he hasn't found one just yet, so he's still holding that P4 position. But the battle for P3 is starting to get really, really feisty here. Everyone trying to find a way past each other, and this is just allowing the top two to pull away just that little bit more and gain a bigger and bigger advantage the longer this goes on for. But the soft compound tires won't last forever. They are going to drop off pretty soon, and we all know the soft compound tires do not last long at all, and when they do drop off, the hards and the mediums are going to be a lot quicker. So top two just trying to hang on to that advantage while they still have it. Meanwhile, Louis Welch is doing his best to try and pull everyone else into the DRS of the top two. So let's see now. Once again, we are getting ready for the bus stop chicane, and all the overtaking opportunities are at the beginning of the lap time, and we're about to tick over onto lap 6, heading into the bus stop chicane. You can see Drake Dempsey getting awfully close to the McLaren there as he almost hits into the back of him. That just goes to show how hard these guys are pushing one another into the source, so no one is going to make a move into here. A little bit too risky, as you'd have to brake quite late to get ahead of someone. But now out of the source and getting ready for Eau Rouge and Radion, this is where we will see most of the overtaking in the Grand Prix. And Paul Eckelmeyer is really close to the back of Louis Welch, using a little bit of battery now, opening up his rear wing flap, and he's going to try to go for the move on the TF10 man. He's not the only one, because Declan Barrett is trying to get past, and so is Drake Dempsey. Could Louis Welch lose 3 positions here in one go? The answer might be yes. It went side by side through the Lacombe chicane. Drake Dempsey with the outside line, and he cannot complete that move just yet. It was very, very close, but Louis Welch losing 2 positions from 1 DRS straight. He's now dropped down to P5, with Paul Eckelmeyer promoting himself into the podium position. So that shows how strong the DRS is at this circuit and at every circuit on this game, so you do not want to be without it. That's why Eckelmeyer and Louis Welch are struggling to catch up to Cameron Dowds ahead of him, because that DRS is just so powerful. Games use so much time, probably about half a second per lap, so it's really hard to find that time without DRS. So lap 6 of 22, and the laps are going to continue to tick away, and we're going to continue to see these guys battling with one another. But the next big event that's going to come up is the pit stops for the soft compound tyre runners. They need to decide, when do they want to come into pit lane? What tyres do they want to put on? Do they want to try mediums? Do they want to go to the hards and play it safe? Who knows? Only time will tell us. But Drake Dempsey is looking aggressive here out of the bus stop chicane. Try to go for a switch back there on Louis Welch. Has not worked out. He hasn't got the traction over Louis Welch just yet. That means he could be looking for a move down this next straight as the top two continue to pull away. These guys are still just trying to battle it out for P3 in the Grand Prix. So once again, we're getting ready for all the overtaking. Cameron Dowds is very close to the back of his teammate Fionn McKee. Is going to make that move. Another man making a move is Declan Barrett. Can Louis Welch return the favour and make a double overtake on Eckelmeyer? No, he can't. he's decided to lift off of the throttle. So Louis Welch has on purpose stayed behind Paul Eckelmeyer. And what exactly is the intent behind that? Does he not want to get involved with this battling? Does he want to save as much time as possible? Is he deciding to come into the pit lane in the next few laps? Who knows? But whatever it is, he does not want to be ahead of the Williams drivers. So he's going to hang out in P5 for now, and he's going to stay there quite happily to do so. And he's just going to wait till the pit stop comes, because once he's into the pit lane, he himself, Cameron Dowds and Fionn McKee are going to have a nice and clear track ahead of them to just push on and set fast lap times. So those guys just waiting for that opportunity. But Dowds and McKee, they haven't really pulled away too much since they've broken the DRS to everyone else. You can see that gap has really been hovering at around 1.5 seconds. So was it worth using all the ERS that they had at the start of the Grand Prix? Who knows? But right now all they know is that they have P1 and P2, which is obviously an advantage. The soft compound tyre runners staying out for another lap in the session, and obviously the top two are still doing a good job at keeping the guys behind at bay. So Louis Welch braking extremely late into the first turn of the circuit, and that must have, maybe that's how he hit Declan Barrett into the first turn. Obviously, I don't fully know what happened. But out of Radion now, getting ready for the Lecom chicane. Once again, the top two switch positions as they have done many times before. Paul Eckelmeyer pulls out of the slipstream. That's because he does not want to make a move into here. So everyone starting to get a little bit more cautious with themselves. No one being too aggressive. No one going for those late dives, those side-by-side maneuvers through the chicane of the middle sector. Everyone just trying to settle in that little bit more, because everybody in this lobby has a game plan. They have the engineer in their ear telling them that they need to be a little bit more calm and just wait for the opportunities to come to them, rather than trying to force them going especially into the Lecom chicane. So it's good to see everyone a little bit more relaxed at this stage, and just waiting that little bit longer. So it's now a game of patience between the drivers, and right now it's working out very, very nicely for the hard compound tyre runners in P3 and P4. And remember, since they're on the hards now, they've taken the brunt of it at the start of the race, but they will have the better tyres at the end, which is going to help them in their battle for the win in this race for Barrett and Eckelmeyer. But we're seeing Franek Moraviak try to go to the outside line at the bus stop chicane. It's a rear lockup for him, and now you can see Drake Dempsey trying to get involved on Louis Welch, and he hasn't been able to do so. But Moraviak has just made two moves in one straight there and into the bus stop chicane. Fantastic to see from Moraviak on the medium compounded tyre. Drake Dempsey and Louis Welch caught napping there in the final sector of the lap time. Drake Dempsey was trying to pick his way through and follow Moraviak ahead of Louis Welch, but it seems like Dempsey is just stuck behind this TF10 man. Can he do anything down this straight? No is the answer, because Louis Welch himself is trying to use a bit of ERS. We're seeing Paul Eckelmeyer go for the move on Declan Barrett, and he leaves it quite late, but he gets it done coming into the Lecom chicane. That's what he needs to do, and get himself into P3 in this race once again. Drake Dempsey and Louis Welch now down to P6 and P7. The soft compounded tyre is still holding on after 8 laps. They are still fast compared to the hards, as we see with the gap between Eckelmeyer and McKee. Still 1.3 seconds, although it is slowly but surely dropping, and that advantage is beginning to fade away. And once it does, you can expect those soft runners to come into the pit lane quite soon after that for what will probably be the medium compounded tyres. I believe the mediums can make it close to the end from this point, so maybe the hard compounded tyre wasn't the best choice to be on, because it seems like a soft medium is very, very possible at this stage. But we are now into the final sector of the lap time. Once again, Drake Dempsey looking for an opportunity on Louis Welch, but those soft compounds of tyres are still fast. They still have grip in them. They still have an advantage, and Louis Welch is holding on to that P6 very, very nicely, putting up a good defensive game and performance ahead of Drake Dempsey. But here we go. It's into the pit lane for both Louis Welch and Drake Dempsey, and not only them, Fionn McKee has decided to come into the boxes as well. So this changes the dynamic of the field. But Fionn McKee, Louis Welch and Drake Dempsey, those are the three big guys coming into the pit lane. And Drake Dempsey has gone onto the hard compound tires. So he's sticking with this medium hard strategy. Is that the right call? Fionn McKee has gone from softs to mediums, and he should quite comfortably make it to the end. So an interesting strategy to say the least for going for the medium hards, as obviously you're going to have the worst tires all the way throughout the Grand Prix. But Drake Dempsey, he's a fast driver and he knows what he's doing, so he's going to try to make it work now, as long as he can just keep up with Louis Welch ahead of him. Andres Lopez is actually in P10. He went for an undercut 1 lap earlier than these guys. Obviously didn't touch upon it because he was a little bit lower down. To be fully honest, I didn't actually notice he came into the pit lane, but the undercut has worked a treat because he was down in P9 and now he's behind the man who was leading the Grand Prix before he came into the pit lane. So Lopez has played his strategy perfectly. He's now in the battle for the lead of the Grand Prix and he's only got 1 lap more of wear. So fantastic job from Andres Lopez. He's played that perfectly, and a very, very good strategy from Parnell Racing. It puts them in a good position. Same can't be said for his teammate though, down in P16 with another pit stop to make in the Grand Prix. But Liam Stevens has just got to hold out hope that possibly there might be a safety car later on in the race. But we can expect more people to come into the pit lane. Now we see Cameron Dowds has decided to come into the boxes, so he's coming in 1 lap after his teammate. What is the difference going to be between them now after this 1 lap difference? Because we saw Lopez gaining so many positions with that undercut. Is Cameron Dowds going to fall behind the likes of Richer and possibly even Franco? We never know. We'll see him coming out of the pit lane now onto the medium compound tires, which you'll be taking for 12 full laps in this race. That should be pretty fine to do with the Haas cars. He now comes out of the pit lane. The overcut not working out too badly for him, as Drake Dempsey is quite a while behind. I think Drake Dempsey's made a mistake because he's 1.4 seconds away from Louis Welch, who was following in the slipstream last lap, so must have missed that mistake, or maybe he just has a serious lack of pace on the hard compound tires and they're just not working for him. Either way, we see Lopez now move into the net lead of the Grand Prix. Yes, you've heard that right. Once the top 4 come into the pit lane, Lopez will be leading this Grand Prix. Can you imagine that? A fantastic strategy from Lopez. He was the only man to go for the super early undercut, and it's worked a treat. He's now even pulling away from Fionn McKee. So not only has he got a good strategy, he's got good pace to back it all up. Lopez has found himself in a good position and he can keep this up and possibly get himself into a race-winning position. But he has the likes of Fionn McKee, Louis Welch, our championship leader Cameron Dowds. They're all behind him and they are all aiming for the same thing, and that is to win this Grand Prix. But it's not just about these guys either, because the top 2 are on the hards, and I think are they coming in for the mediums or are they coming in for the hards? Because if he's coming in, or for the softs I should say, because he's coming in quite early if he wants to go for the softs, so this could be an indication that Barrett wants the medium compound tires on his car. And yes, it is. It's the yellow walled mediums for the McLaren drivers. So Declan Barrett going for the hard medium strategy like Drake Dempsey. So far for Drake Dempsey though, it has not worked out too well, as he is 1.6 seconds away from Cameron Dowds. That means he has got a lot of work to do, and obviously his advantage will come at the end of the race, but will it be enough to get himself up into those podium positions? Fionn McKee and Andres Lopez switching positions once again. Fionn McKee now back up into that net lead. Declan Barrett though, where has he come out? He's come out down in P10. That's a really far way down the order to where he was. Obviously he was battling with the likes of Louis Welch, who's in P5. Meanwhile Barrett is in P10 and he's stuck behind 3 hard runners, and these 3 hard runners are 2 seconds away from the field. So this is not looking good for Declan Barrett whatsoever, and Paul Eckelmeyer has stayed out even longer. So if Eckelmeyer doesn't go to the softs, you can't really say that he's in a position to win this Grand Prix. So Ecklemeyer, he knows this is his only option. He has to go to the soft compound tyres. He's got to stay out on these hards for a little bit longer, but the gap between him and Fionn McKee is over about 10 seconds, and a pit stop takes about 22 seconds. So this is not working out at all for the people who've decided to stay out longer, but everyone who decided to come in early, like Lopez, like McKee, like Louis Welch, it's working very well for them. So interesting how the strategy has played out. It's always interesting how the strategy plays out. I always say this whenever I commentate on a race. The strategy is usually one of the most crucial aspects of where you're going to finish in a Grand Prix. If you can get the strategy right, like Lopez House, you can go from P9 just scraping some points to into a podium position. Not only a podium position, but a podium position from which you can fight for the lead. And that is why the strategy is so important. And Lopez, once again, he's going to make that move ahead of Fionn McKee to move himself into P2. Drake Dempsey has actually been overtaken by Declan Barrett. I've completely missed that. But Declan Barrett has just made 3 overtakes in less than a lap. I'm so sorry I missed that. Oh my god, Declan Barrett, 3 overtakes just like that to get himself into P6. That is fantastic racecraft shown from Declan Barrett. And maybe it's not all bad for Barrett. Maybe I was thinking a little bit too doom and gloom from him, because that is quite impressive from the McLaren driver. And now he's just got to focus on setting those quick laps to catch up to the top 5 positions, and he could still be in a position to win this race because he has actually got fresher tyres than Lopez, McKee, Welch and Dowd. So he's got pace advantage now, and he's gaining and gaining and gaining. He's gained about 3/10 in one sector, and he's going to continue to do so. He might even set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix here. Declan Barrett, a fantastic performance so far, and we still have plenty of laps of racing. We have 9 total to go. So Declan Barrett, if he can keep up this kind of pace, he can definitely catch up to the top 5. But finally, our race leader has decided to come into the pit lane for the soft compound tyres. You have to assume it's for the soft compound tyres. And as he slowly makes his way towards the Williams pit box, it's the mediums. He's gone for the medium compound tyres. Is that a mistake? Or what's he doing here? I have no idea. He's risked all of that track position, falling all the way from a race-winning position down to P11, possibly even P12, if Franco can overtake him, which he does. So Ecklemeyer has just lost 11 positions just to go to the medium compound tyres. Is that the right call from the ET8 man? We're seeing a lot of moves at the front of the field, side by side between Lopez and Cameron Dowds. Cameron Dowds is trying to reclaim that P2 position that he had before the pit stops, and a nice move. You can see Lopez all over the road. Louis Welch trying to find a way past. A little bit of a dodgy defense there from Lopez, but Louis Welch is going to have to wait behind him for now. But Cameron Dowds is back up into P2, and that means it is a Haas 1-2 in the Grand Prix. Fantastic job from those two guys. You can't keep them away from those top positions, it seems. Our championship leader continuing to put on a good performance. And could this be his 3rd podium in a row? If it is going to be that, then he will be looking extremely strong in the championship. Meanwhile, a little bit further behind, Declan Barrett has caught up to the DRS of these top 4 guys. So his pace has been flawless in these last couple of laps. He's in the battle for the podium positions once again. Not only is he in the battle for the podium positions, he's dragged Drake Dempsey along with him. Drake Dempsey has just been trying to hold on to that DRS, and now he is into the DRS of Barrett, and he's into the DRS of the top 4 as well. So Barrett has really helped out Dempsey, Richer and Moraviak, and now they can go on and fight for those big top positions in the top 5. So we are looking at a very interesting dynamic in this race. We could be looking at quite an exciting final few laps. But before we get to the final few laps, we have to lead our way towards that. Andres Lopez is starting to lose a little bit of pace here. Has he actually got the DRS down the straight? No, he hasn't. So Lopez has missed out on that 1 second gap to the top 2. And you know what that means? He's lost the position to Louis Welch, who moved himself up into P3. So a lapse in pace for Lopez has lost him a position on the podium, and now he cuts that turn of turn number 7, which gives him a 3-second time penalty. So it was looking so good for Lopez. It looked like he had pulled off a blinder with the strategy, but He has gotten himself a 3-second time penalty, and at this stage of the Grand Prix, that would currently drop him all the way down to P8. So that is his race pretty much ruined. Such an unfortunate event there for Lopez, but he's just got to continue on, and he can still definitely fight for points in this Grand Prix, which who wouldn't want to fight for points? So he's going to put on his best performance still, try to keep up with Louis Welch ahead and try to keep Declan Barrett behind, although keep Declan Barrett behind, that sounds like a task very, very difficult for the Ferrari driver. 3 laps of wear is the difference between their tyres, and Declan Barrett seemed to just glide past him without any effort at all. So fantastic. Declan Barrett into the top 4 now. He is up and beginning to battle for those podium positions. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, Tony Richet and Moraviec battling side by side through the bus stop chicane. Slight bit of contact there between the two of them, but it's a drag race down the pit straight. They're very, very even coming into the first turn. So who is going to break the latest? It looks like Richet has got a good line on the inside, but Moraviec could get the better exit, and he does. Out of the source, has that secured him this P7 position? Yes, is the answer. A nice battle there between the two. Moraviec has promoted himself up into P7, and now he is going to be the one applying pressure to the back of Drake Dempsey. But how long will that last? Because Tony Richet is not going down without a fight. Drake Dempsey trying to give a bit of slipstream to Moraviec, and then he boxes in Richet. Very smart play there from Drake Dempsey, but Richet is not giving up. He's breaking way too late into that Lecom chicane. He's had to cut the circuit. Thankfully, did not get a time penalty, but Moraviec is able to defend that position. Very close between the two of them. These guys really fighting hard for this P7 position, but as they battle it out, Drake Dempsey is now 2.6 seconds away from the top 5, so he's not really in contention with those guys anymore. While that battling was happening, Louis Welch has dropped down to P5, Lopez up to P4, and Declan Barrett is now into the podium positions with Fionn McKee ahead of him. Fionn McKee does not have DRS because he's 1.3 seconds away from Cameron Dowds. So Cameron Dowds is in a fantastic position in this race. He is leading, he's got great pace, and he's keeping the rest of the grid at bay. But can he keep Declan Barrett at bay? That is the question that everyone in front of him has to ask themselves, because he's all over the back of Fionn McKee heading into the bus stop chicane. It won't be long before he tries to go for a move on the TES driver. So out of the bus stop chicane, beginning lap 17 of 22. We are really getting close to those final stages of the race. Through the source now, hitting his apex nicely. That's a yellow flag. Moldovan has had a bit of an incident there, which has dropped him down to P16. It's all focus on Declan Barrett coming through Radion. Declan Barrett with about 15% ERS. He's able to overtake Fionn McKee, and the DRS helping him just that little bit more. He's up into P2, and Fionn McKee saw his red light flashing. That means he's got about 6% ERS left. He is down into P3. Declan Barrett, it's all up to him now. Can he challenge the championship leader for the win in this Grand Prix? That is what we want to know. It has got 5 laps to be decided. The McLaren driver trying to pull off this great strategy from hard to medium. Obviously, his tyres were worse all the way through the Grand Prix. It had the hards at the start when everyone else had the softs. He's got the mediums now when everyone else has the mediums, but he has got fresher mediums as well. So he has definitely got the tyre advantage over Cameron Dowds. So can he use this late advantage to win him the Grand Prix? 1 second is the difference between Dowds and Barrett. He needs to get into 9/10 though, because once you get into that 9/10 rate, that is when you get the DRS and you open that rear wing flap, which gives you so much of an advantage down the straight. So Declan Barrett needs a good exit through the chicane, so let's see him. He hits the first apex, then trying to hit a late second apex using the curve on the outside. You can see it was 9/10 for a moment there, but has he got the DRS? No, he hasn't got it just yet. He needs to keep pushing. Everyone is low on ERS at this stage. Cameron Dowds is below 10%. Declan Barrett below 10%. And the same goes for Fionn McKee. So there is no ERS advantage for everyone. At this point of the race, it is just about pure pace. Who is the fastest driver in this division? And right now it's looking like Cameron Dowds, but Declan Barrett, he's into that 1 second range. He is into the DRS of Cameron Dowds. He's got an opportunity to battle for the lead in this Grand Prix. A little bit further behind, we have Moravic, Richet, Ecclemire all battling it for P6, and Ecclemire actually has been gaining quite a few positions in the background. It's not the P1 that it was before, but it's currently P6 in the race. He's 4 seconds away from Louis Welch, but there is a massive tyre gap between the two of them. 4 laps of wear. That could gain him anywhere between 2/10 and 7/10 per lap, so we'll make sure to keep an eye on that gap between Ecclemire and Welch, because there's every chance he could still get himself onto the podium in this race. So let's see as Zamaro gets himself a 3-second time penalty. We look back to the race lead, and actually Ecclemire has just gained 5/10 in one sector, so not 5/10 per lap, 5/10 per sector. So Ecclemire could definitely still catch up to Louis Welch and get himself onto the podium. Into the bus stop chicane for the 18th time this Grand Prix. Cameron Dowds currently P1, but will it stay that way? Because Declan Barrett is now within 8/10. He is now within the DRS, and that means that Cameron Dowds is in a world of trouble, because he's going to feel so much pressure from the McLaren driver behind. But when you have 3 laps to go in the race, it's not just about overtaking as many people as possible. It's about the mind games. It's about the strategy. When do you overtake? Where do you overtake? How do you overtake? And what is going to ultimately win you this Grand Prix? Coming into Lecombe chicane, Barrett not close enough for an overtake even if he wanted to. But the question is, does he stay behind and wait for a better opportunity? Or is he going to overtake at the earliest convenience? Liam Stevens set the fast lap of the Grand Prix, but that doesn't really matter. Liam Stevens, P2 in the championship, and he finds himself in dead last by 22.8 seconds after getting damage at the start of the race. Super unfortunate for a championship contender. And he's not the only one, because Drake Dempsey, who's at P3 in the championship, this strategy has not worked out as well as it has for the likes of Declan Barrett, the medium-hard strategy, of course. He's currently down in P10 and would only be walking away with 1 point in this race. Meanwhile, our championship leader, who's 8 points in the lead of the championship, could win this race and take home a full 16 points. Or he could come P2 and take home 12. Whatever happens is going to happen in the next 3 laps. So Bart coming into the bus stop chicane, lifting off the throttle a little bit early, so he's not being too aggressive anymore. He's not pushing his car to the absolute limit to which he was earlier on in the race. And you can actually notice you can actually notice that Declan Barrett is starting to save up a bit at that ERS. He's on 25% now, and that means that at this stage, it's not about pushing, it's not about gaining time, it's about conserving, it's about waiting, it's about being patient and getting ready to pounce on your prey. But right now, Barrett just playing around with his food. Cameron Dowds allowing him to stay in the lead of this Grand Prix. Because he knows in the final lap or 2, that is when he is going to be making the big move. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer to see a battle for the lead, but we can see a battle forming behind, because Louis Welch and Lopez switch positions, with Louis Welch getting himself up into P4, and Louis Welch has overtaken Lopez because he sees the fast approaching danger that is Paul Ecclemire in P6 in the Williams. He's gained about 2 seconds in the last 2 laps, and now he only needs to gain 1 more second to get himself into the DRS of Andres Lopez. So Ecclemire pushing hard, and he's got 50% ERS as well. Ecclemire looking like a major threat to the races of Lopez, Welch, even McKee in P3. So it's fantastic to see that Paul Ecclemire, who dropped from P1 down to P12, is looking to contend for a podium. That just speaks to the performance that he is currently putting on display. So P6 right now, he's just gained 6/10 in one sector. Paul Ecclemire on an absolute rampage. He just needs to gain a little bit more time, and he will be in the DRS of Andres Lopez ahead of him. Great to see this kind of racing from the drivers. This is definitely one of the more entertaining races I've seen on this F123 game, and PCF3 always delivers here in PSGL. But coming out of Radion now, Declan Barrett is closer as he's ever been to the back of Dowds, but he does not use any battery, and is he going for a move here? He's not in the slipstream. He's looking to the outside. Is he going to try to go side by side with the race leader? Well, it doesn't matter because Fionn McKee has just snuck up into the lead of the Grand Prix, and Declan Barrett has to make contact with Cameron Dowds, and you can see a slide of the rear end for Declan Barrett. Neither of those two guys were expecting it, but the Irishman has just gone from P3 to P1. He's overtaken Dowds, he's overtaken Barrett, and now it's all about these two guys trying to get ahead and back up into the battle for the lead. But Fionn McKee is 1.3 seconds ahead. I think Cameron Dowds lost his front wing. He's suffering major understeer, and Fionn McKee is beginning to run away with this race after a late dive into the Lacombe chicane. No one was expecting it. I didn't even see it coming. But Fionn McKee is into P1. He's got Declan Barrett 1.6 seconds away. Can the Irishman from the TES team win this Belgian Grand Prix? I didn't even mention him as a favourite. I thought it was just going to be a 1v1 showdown between Barrett and Dowds, but it doesn't look like that's how it's going to turn out. Declan Barrett, he is now on the charge. He's got to catch up to the race lead. He's got to try and secure this win. He was so close, but he's letting it slip away after that manoeuvre into the Lacombe chicane. Now, it is the final lap of the Grand Prix. 22nd time coming into La Source, and Fionn McKee has got the advantage heading into the final lap of the Grand Prix. Declan Barrett will not have the DRS heading down the Kemmel Straight. Does he have the grip to catch up in the middle and final sector? It's going to be a big ask, but Declan Barrett has shown already that he's got fantastic pace, but this isn't going to help him out because Cameron Dowds has just overtaken coming into the Lacombe chicane. He's not the only one. Louis Welch and Lopez going side by side. It's contact between the two, and Lopez is spun right round and down into P6, and that is a big incident there between himself and Louis Welch. Such a shame to see, but these guys are getting aggressive. They're getting their elbows out because it is the final lap of the Grand Prix. This is where the race is won or lost. Louis Welch is now in P4. He's got Ecclemire right behind him in P5. Declan Barrett trying to make a move on the damaged Cameron Dowds. Cameron Dowds has pretty much no front wing at this stage. He has got such little grip as he heads through the middle sector of the lap time. You can see how much he's holding the guys behind him, and all these guys are so closely compacted together that we could see a move at any moment. Declan Barrett now, he's going to try to use the ERS. He's going to try to use the slipstream to make a move coming into the bus stop chicane. Can he at least secure P2 in this Grand Prix? It's going to be close, but you can see not much space on the inside line. He's not able to find a way past just there. Paul Ecclemire has gone ahead of Louis Welch as he squeezed him off of the circuit. A little bit of contact between the two almost caused a big incident. Declan Barrett now, the inside line for the second apex. It's contact between the two. It's going to be side by side between everyone across the line. And let's see who has come P2. It's Cameron Dowds by 46 one-thousandths of a second. He finishes in second place. But that's not the best performance in the field because Fionn McKee wins the Belgian Grand Prix by 3.3 seconds. Fionn McKee, who saw that one coming? He's come out on top not only for his TES team, but also has secured the 1-2 that they had at the start of the race. Declan Barrett gets a podium in the end. It's not the race win he thought he could have gotten, but still a podium. That's 12 points to his name. Or 10 points to his name, I should say. And a fantastic performance. Nothing to be ashamed of, but what a battle we had at the end there. And our race winner is Fionn McKee, and he is about to come out onto the podium to receive his podium and waving that Irish flag for the world to see, taking that top step, and he's going to get a taste of that sweet champagne and a deserved race winner. I mean, absolutely fantastic, that maneuver on lap 21, overtaking both Dowds and Barrett to win this race. Great job from Fionn McKee. And Cameron Dowds was able to secure that P2 position, even with a broken front wing. he still ends up on the podium and ahead of Declan Bart. But here are your final race results. We had Louis Welch in P4. Paul Eckelmeyer was able to get himself up into P5, but after securing pole position, it does not seem like he was on the best strategy, losing 4 positions from his original starting position. We then had Tony Riesch, started P17, finishes P6 with a grand total of 11 positions gained. Moraviak in P7, Tripkov in P8, and then we have Lopez in P9 with Lenore in P10, and Drake Dempsey, at the end of the day, he's going to finish this race with 0 points, and the same can be said for Liam Stevens. So 2 of the top 3 in the championship finishing outside of the points. Meanwhile, our championship leader, who had an 8-point advantage coming into this race, is now going to gain another 16 points, bringing his total up to a lead of 24 points, and that is some lead, especially when a race win is worth 16 points. That's almost 2 race wins ahead of the closest contender, which is Liam Stevens. So great job from Cameron Dowds, and fantastic job from him. He continues to put in those consistent results, gets a 1-2 for Haas, and I think that might put them into the lead of the Constructors' Championship as well. So great job from him, and also congratulations to Fionn McKee. If I had to give one driver though, driver of the day, there were a lot of good performances in the field. We get to see the racecraft of Declan Barrett. We saw the defense of Cameron Dowds. But at the end of the day, it was that one crucial overtake by Fionn McKee that allowed him to win by 3.3 seconds. And that deserves a lot of credit. So Fionn McKee, he is going to get my driver of the day. Congratulations to him, and congratulations also to our other podium runners of Dowds and Barrett after pulling off what was quite a spectacle here in Belgium in PCF3. And I truly hope you enjoyed this race. It was definitely an exciting one. And that is going to be the end of this Belgian Grand Prix. So I hope you all enjoyed this race. I've been your race commentator, More Games. I hope to see you all next week, although I may not be here next week since I'm a reserve for this division. But there's every chance that I might see you again next week, and I truly hope that I do, because I'm starting to get quite invested now into this championship battle. But that is going to be all from me. Last thing I'm going to mention is to make sure you like the stream if you enjoyed, and also subscribe to the PSGL channel. It's a great channel. It's growing constantly, and you definitely want to be a part of it, and all the great commentators and racers involved. So definitely make sure you subscribed if you like this one, and also you can check out GT Omega, our title sponsor, in the description. And if you use code PSGL at checkout, you can get 5% off of any order. But that is now going to be the end of this Belgian Grand Prix. I've been your race commentator, More Games, and until next time, it's going to be goodbye from me.
He's got the inside off, here he's through, on the left hand side, humps the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now, to the last couple of corners now, his finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the ghost is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.